Thanks everyone for joining us. We're gonna start with the third of 2023 SolidWorks user groups for Phoenix. Year is flying by. I am Dylan Pratt. I'm just kind of giving a quick tips and tricks presentation. Just kind of get us warmed up for the other presentations. And I'll ask if anyone has some questions or wants to address something at the end. It's a pretty short presentation, so it'll probably be at the end and we can go through that. If you can't hear me, either someone in the room or someone on Zoom, let me know and I can work on improving the mic situation. But other than that, we'll get started. Oh, I guess, by the way, I'm Dylan Pratt with InterLink Engineering. So we're hosting the in-person today. We're involved a lot with the SWUG. If you have any questions, let me know afterwards. Thanks. All right. It's pretty simple tips and tricks today. It's all about tab. So how we use tab in SolidWorks to do a few different things, some of which you probably know, and possibly some of which you don't. I know there was at least one in there I didn't know about until I was looking around. So let's start with maybe one of the more basic ones. We've got control tab between documents. I venture to guess we've probably all done this one. And I'm going to pull up my SolidWorks here. If you control tab SolidWorks. Sorry, I'm losing track of my screen here. Oh, I just realized I didn't have another file open. Let me open another file. I'll have the one file we're using later. Just open a blank document real quick. So if I've got this document but want to go between, you just click Control Tab and you'll switch between your documents. So a lot of people might know Alt Tab for switching between programs like this. So Alt Tab switches between programs, but within SolidWorks, Control Tab switches between different parts you have open. And if you have a lot of parts open, you can keep hitting Tab and switching between, you know, which one's on the screen basically. So you can go down the line of like 10 parts by just holding Control, but keep holding Tab. So if you haven't done that one before, that's a really useful one I use all the time. I would say that's probably one of the most common, I think it's a pretty common one, I think, for a lot of people to know, but still may not have. And there's a couple other ones. Let's see if I click that right. Yep. So the other one is to hide and show bodies using Tab and Shift Tab. This one, I think, has been probably told to me a few times and I never remember. And I will be honest, to me, it feels a little weird to use. It just, it's one of those SolidWorks hotkeys that it almost feels like you're doing something wrong. But if you hover over body, so I'm not clicking anything right now, I'm just hovering. And when I hit Tab, it'll hide the body. Now, if I want to show the body again, I'm not clicking anything with the mouse. I'm just hovering where the model should be. I hit Shift Tab. Oh, did I move too much? Where is it? There. Promise it works. Shift Tab. But I lost track of the body there. So hover over, nothing on the mouse. All I'm doing is hitting Tab and Shift Tab. And the SolidWorks just still knows that the model is supposed to be in that location. This model actually moves. So I actually haven't experimented with this, but I believe this will work. So if I were to hide it and then let's say move this down, you know, when I Shift Tab, it's actually in this location. So kind of a funny little thing. You got to track where you think the object to be, but if you're just doing a quick hide, like I want to see that pin, then that really helps a lot. So
what is that model?
Yeah, this is a client project actually. It's for a cheek expander essentially. So it's a medical device used for burn victims.
So you're going to put that on a mouth?
You put this part of it in your mouth, just this part. Yep. And it helps expand your skin because after a burn, your skin gets really tight, and it's something I didn't know until the client told us, but it leads to problems where people later, when they're healed, they can't open their mouth wide enough for normal everyday function and talking. So part of their rehab is essentially using this device to help stretch their skin in a natural way. But anyway, yeah, so hover over tab, shift tab to live. So that's kind of a fun one. And then last one I got for you today, like I said, keeping it quick, is using tab in a 3D sketch. So in a 3D sketch, tab will kind of give you, it'll change your reference plane, which if you use 3D sketch a lot, is something you often need to do. And it's another one of those that I think I've heard of, but I don't personally, I don't end up doing a lot of 3D sketches, but when I do, this is definitely one of those things it's helpful to keep in mind, because sometimes it can be a pain trying to figure out your reference plane. So to show you real quick, I'll go ahead and do this in the blank part actually. So what I mean is, so if I start a 3D sketch, I got 3D sketch, cool. So if I'm perpendicular to a plane, 3D sketches, when they're really basic, are not terribly complicated. My reference plane is pretty clear. I'm drawing on the front plane right now, so that's my sketch, right? No one's really confused by that. But sometimes I need to get a little bit crazier and start drawing more in 3D space. And when I'm drawing like this, I don't have a good reference plane on where that is. Okay, in this case, I stayed on the right plane, but for the most part, but it depends on how you're sketching. It can get a little complicated. So what you can do is, see that little XY next to my cursor? If I hit tab, it'll actually change what my reference plane is for this given line. So ZX, XY, YZ, and that's all by just hitting tab. When I do my next line, I can hit tab, get the next line, hit tab, keep changing my reference plane to whatever I need in that moment without trying to like move around and figure out what I need to be normal to. It can really save a lot of effort, honestly, with making big, if you're doing like a weldment, complicated weldment using 3D sketches, it's a pretty useful way of doing that, because it is a little difficult sometimes to force and know which plane you're using. So kind of an interesting way of utilizing that. See, like in that white case, I didn't hit tab, so I kind of ended up in the same plane and drew two lines on top of each other. Anyway, that's my scribble. I think, oh, that's the end of the SWUG one. I forgot to make a final page for this part of it, but any questions about tab and uses of tab? Anyone?
Just for hiding and showing bodies, does that work for surface bodies as well as solid bodies?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, and it works in assemblies. I think my example, I believe, is a multi-body, or is it assembly? Oh, it's an assembly. So it will work in a multi-body as well. Okay. So yeah, in multi-body, it'll do surfaces or anything. I happen to be in an assembly. I didn't think about trying that, but yeah, it should work the same. Yeah, sort of question. Any other thoughts or questions about tab, or remind anyone else of a cool trick they want to share? No pressure.
One thing about it is it's a multi-body parts, and in assembly, it will hide the whole multi-body part.
Yes, good point. So it does work for a multi-body part. Just to reiterate, especially if people on Zoom couldn't hear, but it does work on a multi-body part. However, if you're hiding a part in an assembly that is a multi-body part, it'll hide the whole part, not the individual bodies. So it kind of is defaulting to whatever file format you're in, that sort of set of rules, if that makes sense. Yeah, good point, Connor. Cool. All right. Well, that's my quick presentation.